Welcome, 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 welcome. Loading up, baby. Welcome to another week of Prototype Dad. Let's give clap it up first. You know what I mean? How's it going today, fellas?
What's good, God?
Good.
Man, this is a good
What up?
cast,
What
man.
up?
This is a good cast, yeah. Y'all gonna have some jewels. Y'all gonna have some jewels for these questions today, man. We're gonna get into some topic about co-parenting and being a stepdad season. You know what I'm saying? So um I know we all got important things to kind of drop on these ones, you know what I'm saying? So kind of how we do it. I know Mr. Simpkins, and Rod, y'all new to the pod, so everybody get a shot at the question, and we could elaborate as is, after we answer. You understand?
Mhm.
All right, here we go. Here we go. First question in co-parenting: who should get custody, the mother or the father? Who want to take the first stab?
Come on, that's a trick question.
It really is. I think it would be the parent who's more fit.
Hey, I'm getting my audio ready. Look, I'm gonna go in on this one. Y'all go ahead. I'm gonna let y'all hold it down.
You know what?
You about to go in, huh?
If you want to look at it like who gonna do the right thing financially, the person that's you would think financially, whoever financially set straight should get the kid. But that's not really always the right thing. You know what I'm saying? Because boys growing up without dads and girls growing up with and different. It's that's kind of different too.
It's different. So
So
from gay,
I would much
you gotta
rather have
call it
my
how?
I
How,
would
how
much
would you
rather have
call
my
it?
son struggle with me than live with his mama rich or something like that.
Say that again.
I would much rather have my son struggle with me than live with his mama doing better or something.
Really? That's
Yeah,
interesting. That's interesting.
yeah.
Who got next? Who got next on that one, man? That's an interesting one.
I feel like I should go last because I don't really have much experience with this situation, but I got theories and hypotheses in my head about how I would want it to go. So
Man, all right, look, let me jump in. All right, look. So, look, I was trying. Look, so so at this point, though, I think a lot of it depends on what stage of life that kid's in, right? So, for example, when I initially got divorced, man, my daughter wasn't even school age. So there was a lot of like the nurturing and that type of stuff that was necessary at the time. The discipline and all that type of stuff that I bring wasn't what was needed. So I'm fine with that, and obviously there's a money component to it, but I'm gonna do that anyway. So that aside, I think initially when everything went down, I think it was more important for the woman to be, but obviously we needed both. But so I didn't think it needed to be one or the other. I just think we both needed to kind of know our roles and know what was important. But at this point to where we're getting a little bit older, man, I think that those roles and who may be better suited to provide what's needed is what actually determines it. So I just think it depends on kind of the two co-parents, and then also what that kid, what age that kid's in at that point. So, but yeah, man, it gets sticky. It just this gonna be a good one, man.
Yeah,
I'm ready for this
that's
one.
yeah, you started off with the tough question. Let's go.
Go ahead, Rod. Jump in.
Oh no, you good, brother. I'll just wait on the next question.
You don't got one for this one? You gotta give
Not
your
not.
opinion. You gotta give something. You gotta give something on it.
Well, I kind of agree with the gentleman that just spoke. I think the parent who's most fit at the time and should have, and it depends on the needs of the child.
All right, Leifer.
I mean, for me, I feel like it's not necessarily finances or total fitness. I feel like it's the parent who has the most support, like the biggest village. because it's all, if that person's working or if they have other things going on, you're going to need different people to step in and help at different phases in the life of the child. So I feel like the person who has the biggest village, should have, custody of the kid, at the very least, depending on which stage or what age the kid is, because, the younger kids, they need a little more watching and coddling and things. The older kids, they need more of those lessons and things like that. But, in my head, if you're co-parenting, you're not necessarily all the time, but you're in a similar space where, you're not in different states and things like that, but if you're in different states, and that's a whole different story. But my idea is based on like if you like a few neighborhoods away or something like that. The person who got the biggest village, got custody of the kid, and then the other parent just comes over as they need to, or they switch, or kind of work it out. But if you just got money and you by yourself, now you bringing in third parties to watch the kids and daycare and all. Like there's too many things that can happen in the mix in that. So I just feel like the person who just got more support should have that kid during the early portions of their life.
You have the bat last, Mr. Simpkins.
I like what he said there with the the most support. The one thing that from my side, and I would be completely with that view is that support for different people is going to look different ways. And so for me, I would be on the same thing. Like, hey, whoever has the ability to make sure that everything's covered across the bases, you know what I mean? Who's going to be able to be there 85, 90% of the time versus who is it going to be a struggle for to do some of these things, and in taking all of that into account, not just take into account, like Leifer said, the finances, or what I'm saying, who's got more structure. It's really looking at who has all of that total package and is able to deliver it at a more consistent basis, and also be open to what the other parent has going on. Like for me, I was traveling all across the country, doing different things. And so I needed a setup where I could be able to see my kids when, it was convenient, but also be able to provide that, alleviate them from their mothers when it was convenient for them as well. And so being able to have someone who's willing to do the give and take, and that person being the main custody holder, if that is the open-minded person, it usually works a little better.
All right, since we got a new addition, we got Hit Me that just joined in, but I'm gonna go ahead and get my perspective real quick, and then we'll jump to him. How I feel about it is the father should always have control over the child, all day, every day. He should set up the structure. He should have full custody. I always look at it as that kid is yours, more than it is the woman's. So you gave that woman a kid, or you had a baby by that woman, but that kid is yours and your responsibility. And however you leave it out there, however you handle the nurturing, it should always be on your program, your time, and you should be able to facilitate with everything that child needs, no matter how you get it done. But custody, I think, should always lie in the father's hands.
When or either parents, when they have the ability as well. I mean, because if the father isn't able, then I don't think he's going to be able to stand up on that custody setup. Or if the mother isn't able, same thing, vice versa.
I
So,
understand.
so I want to clarify. So, because I don't think it's, are you? I don't think you're necessarily saying that the father needs to have custody. You're just saying that he has the last say or he has the authority. But if that was the case, why would if she was, and I'm using this scenario as a divorce, but in divorce, wouldn't know if she was just submitting to your authority, wouldn't y'all still be together? So like that's kind of in a utopian society where we're like,
Not,
oh well, she's
not
just gonna take.
necessarily, not
Like I'm just gonna
necessarily,
listen to
because
what, like that's the whole reason y'all co-parenting is because she don't believe in your structure to begin with.
that's not necessarily. You can't say that. I mean, y'all could break up on a lot of different reasons, but in a situation of a divorce, though, I think the kid should go with the father. I think in the old days it used to be like that. There was a time where when the divorce happened, the children went with the father, and
Because he was
some.
could provide. That was it was because the women didn't have the ability to
Yeah,
provide for
they
the
didn't. They
kid.
weren't having. They weren't really getting no money back in the day. There.
I mean,
Right.
regardless of
Exactly.
how that sway, I don't think that should have changed anything. You know what I mean? As far as who should get custody of the child and sole say. Because like I said, that kid has your name. That has your last name. So
Well,
it ain't hers.
well,
It
I
shouldn't
know.
be hers.
Speaking
But
for
when you got
myself,
time, when you got money, you ain't got no time. But when you get time, you ain't got no money.
Well,
So
if
you
you
Right.
got
fix
money, you
that.
should be able to facilitate. Look, if you gotta bring in a nanny or whatever you gotta do, that kid is your responsibility to handle.
So
Like
the courts
flat
fix
out.
that for you. The courts fix that for you. Go ahead and send that money over here. I'll be the nanny for 789 a month,
Right.
and you go do what you do.
For real. That's literally
Yeah,
what it
hey, it's
has
gonna be a
turned into
long
though.
night, fellas. It's gonna be a
Like they
long night
are
tonight.
they are the nanny brokering services for sure. You hit that on the head.
I mean, my BM had my kids for 16 years. She had them. And I got two daughters, and for the last two, they been mine for the last whatever. I couldn't handle them. I know there's no, I wouldn't, no. I couldn't be a man. I wouldn't be, I probably would have dropped the ball on them when they was young. But now they needed me and I was there for them. So I mean, financially, she makes more money than me then or whatever. But I was straight enough to take care of them. But I was in the military. It would have been all kind of bad, like you said, hiring nannies and all this other
Somebody's
good
rough. Somebody hold on,
things.
hold on, hold on, hold on. Somebody's tough.
So it's kind of different. But a co-parent is crazy, man. It ain't no right or wrong way to do it, man.
Right.
Whatever works for y'all situation, for real.
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
it's not preferred. It's not the preferred way to do it.
It ain't.
Yeah,
Right.
Hell
exactly.
no. That shit
Definitely
a
not.
headache. It
What
don't
what
get
you
good until they get old. Then it'd be kind of cool when they older, but when they young, you be like,
Look,
especially. And I've been out of
even
state
then, I'd
with
rather
mine.
not.
I ain't never had to deal with the drop the baby off at the doorstep and stuff like that. That stuff
Look
is
at
same
at the
city stuff.
at the
It'd be crazy. I
look
ain't never
at the
had to deal
Burger
with that.
King because you can't know where I live.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely
Yeah.
had to drop the baby off at the doorstep
I've had
Yeah,
to
situation.
because you
Like,
drop it
ain't
off
allowed
at
in my
my
house.
doorstep.
yeah, dropped off at my doorstep. So it's like, yo,
Man,
what you got here? What's your perspective on who should have custody of the kids?
Oh, I think kind of what y'all touched on. It goes to the person who can provide the at that given time. I don't think it should be one person or another. I think that should be a shared responsibility. But if one is more stable than the other, and I think the most important thing for a child is that has stability, man. You know what I'm saying, all the way through. So whoever can provide the most stability at that time, I think should what I mean be the sole. I mean be the primary guardian.
Mhm.
For sure. I agree with that all the way. That's why I said the person with the village, the person with the most assistance, the person with the most help, the person who ain't just living in the city by themselves where they don't know anybody else, somebody who's surrounded by, family or people who love them, who are, what I mean, who is really like coming together to try to raise this child and to bring this child up. And, I understand, Vic's perspective on, the father kind of, being in control of that because the dad is supposed to bring that stability and that strong nature to the household. But I don't necessarily feel like the kid has to be in your household for you to provide that. And there's different stages in the life where the kid is going to need stuff that you can't provide. Like, I say it all the time. Like, I'm not that. Well, my daughter says I'm emotionally retarded. She says like, so it's like, you know what I mean? There's certain things that I can do and I can show, but there's things that my wife is just going to bring to the table that I'm just not capable of doing, or a woman's going to bring to the table that I'm not capable of doing. So, you know what I mean? Just having that village, and it don't necessarily have to be, the mom. You know what I mean? It could be like,
A
my
woman.
mom or my sister or
Yeah,
just a
just a
woman who
woman.
has that emotional connection that, you know what I mean, can connect emotionally on that level. Because I feel like I'm pretty sound emotionally, but
And then there's
not enough.
some hardware issues. Like once it gets to the point where they having a cycle and stuff, man, you don't know what, like, you don't have the hardware. You know what I mean? So been there, done that. So
Okay,
like
so
you
Right.
said, man,
hold on.
it's
Let's
two.
let's segue into the next question then. Next question: at what age should your son or daughter live with the prospective parent?
I want to go back to the I want to go back to Mo point for a second because uh my oldest was with me when that happened and she was 8. I have 4 daughters. And so me being growing up in the country around my cousins, my grandmother didn't hide it from us as boys. We knew what was going on. So when my all of my cousins got to be 8 or 9 years old, my grandmother made them carry a purse. You didn't just carry a purse when it was that time. You carried it all the time because so nobody would know. So I reverted back to when I was like 10, 11 years old, remembering the stories of my grandmother working with my cousins, and I went into action. I called my mom, I called her mom, of course, but I couldn't just sit there. You know what I mean? I literally just went into action from what I knew. So I wasn't as prepared as her mother would have been to have that conversation, but I was prepared enough for it not to be a disaster and have to just, completely say, "Oh my goodness, what's going on?" That's
Right.
another aspect of it where I think we can provide some of it, but explaining why and the future of this moment, I could have never done the way her mother would
Right,
have would have been
and
able
you're
to
you're
do like
spot
that.
on because I went through it myself and like actually it was a fire drill to be honest with you because I thought that's what it was but it wasn't. So obviously I knew enough to be dangerous, but for my child that's not enough. So like I was making calls
Yeah.
like I might not even been taught we weren't even cordial at that point, but I took the L and was like, hey,
Yeah.
this was going on. Like, hey, you can come in today. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, you can go past the doorstep today. Like, hey, I think there's an issue. So that's why kind of that duality is so important. But again, like obviously, man, I knew enough to be dangerous, but I just felt that that wasn't enough for what she needed at that moment.
Yo, but that further drives the point, like who's going to be the most stable parent, and a lot of times when you first say that,
You
stable
breaking up. You breaking
financially, who
up.
has the house. What? You can hear me?
You broke up.
Look, we'll come back to it. So I mean,
Yo,
get your service together. You good?
yo, you can hear me? Yo, you hear
Now
We
me?
hear
you
you
go
now.
in and out.
Look,
But
Oh,
you
you
now,
ain't the
hear me?
most stable parent right now,
you're
boy.
not the
That
Yo,
most.
you
yo,
got
you hear me, bro?
Hey, he
nah.
hitting
Look,
blocks.
Hey,
we gonna have to
they
give
they
custody
trying
to
to
the
drown
other
me out.
parent right now.
Listen, hey, I'm gonna tell the truth. I straight up, I folded on that. When that happened, like I straight up folded. Like we
Oh
was in,
man.
like it was.
I had to deal with it.
Look, it was bad. It was bad. Like, and I was mad. And I handled it completely wrong too. Like I was mad at myself, but then took it out on her in anger. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, it shouldn't have happened right now, or what you want me to do about it? Like, hey, I completely,
Right.
yo, when I
You out
think
here
dropped, man,
dripping on the carpet, like
yo,
no, not now,
no, like
not
we was in
now.
the middle of practice. We was in the middle of softball practice, and she was like, "Dad," um,
Make the play.
I was like, "Yo, keep playing, keep practicing."
Yeah, that's why we need both. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, you
that's
gotta
why
have
I'm
that.
never an
That
advocate
balance.
for
Hey, that's what
one
I'm
person
saying.
or
Yeah.
another.
I'm glad I
Yeah,
wasn't
I
around. I
handled it
did the
completely
same thing.
wrong, man. I handled it completely wrong. I
I
was
would
like,
have been the same way. Terrible. I've been terrible.
Make the play.
But on that second question that you had went with on the age,
right,
for
what
me,
age?
that's a conversation. I'm not joking. That's a conversation I had with one of my daughter's moms when my daughter was like 2, 3 months old, and I was like, listen, we got to be in this thing together for 18 years. All right, I'm all about that. Like I I had already had an older daughter, and I was pretty much doing the same thing, co-parenting. But I straight up was like, listen, the first 9 years are you. I don't care where you are. I'm going to be there. I don't care what you do. I'm going to be able to find a way to be around. But when she turns 9 or 10, I want her until living in my house until she turns 18. And my logic for that was because at that age, of course, we would already have a relationship, but I wanted to make sure that she understood from a father's eyes the value of herself as she had already been able to build that value with her mom, but also by the time she was 18, she would also have had the chance to understand what life in my house was like, the culture of life with me, the culture of life with her mother. So when she goes out into the world, we can both look at and see our hands in that and not feel like, oh man, she's only doing this because I wasn't there, or oh, she's only doing this because I wasn't there. And we literally had this as a very extensive conversation, and I had it laid out and thought out, and we thought it was going to go like that, and it didn't. But that to me is the best option. Is okay, if you're going to, if we got to do this for 18 years, somebody decide for the first 9, somebody decide for the second 9, because I think the kid needs to be thoroughly immersed into the culture of each household, especially if there are some differences in the way that culture operates.
No, that's facts, but it never goes. It never
Yeah, I would
goes the
say,
way it planned.
like, and the reason I push back on that, and I respect it, that's the whole 50-50. You take the first half, you take the second half. But the problem with that is on that, I'm glad I didn't do it that way, because there would have been some bad habits already entrenched in them by the time I got them at 10. So
Mm,
I was involved, it was kind of 50-50 from
yeah.
the womb at that point. You know what I mean? So there was already kind of, different house, different rules. So I just that was just understood. There were certain things that just didn't fly in my house.
Right.
So I'm glad that that wasn't the case, but I could see why that was a thought process. But if I was to just not necessarily be hands off, but to be kind of the weekend dad up until 10, to where all of a sudden you're gonna come to my house, like, she's going to buck, because the discipline and the structure was going to be so
Yeah.
unbearable that she was like, man, send me back to my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
like
what I
when
went
I say that, I
through.
mean like live in the house. I mean like now staying, coming and visiting summers,
Hmm.
all that continued to stay. I mean, be there
Hmm.
with them pretty much. I mean, when we lived in the same city, we was able. But again,
Hmm.
once she turned 9 or 10, that's when I was like, okay, I would like for her to be in this culture,
Hmm.
because her mom was living in like California, and I was like, okay,
Hmm.
that's a different culture than what she grew up in now, and I kind of wanted to immerse on a different side. But yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely
So
see
when
that.
logistically, when that's a thing, yeah, I can
Yeah.
understand that.
What's going on, Dex?
What's up, everyone?
Man,
Sorry I'm late.
What's
welcome
good?
to the pod, man.
Good stuff.
Appreciate it. Yeah, seems like a good conversation so far, though.
Yeah, what you got? What you thinking on the first two questions? The first two questions is who should get custody, like which parent should get custody, and the second, we're rolling into the second is what age should your son or daughter come live full time with their prospective parent?
Yeah, honestly, I can't say that I have an opinion on this one, man. It's a foreign situation to me, so I think I'm here to learn from what you guys are talking about more.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Anybody got
And
anything
actually,
else on
let me
that?
let me. I do. So I think it is different depending on what sex we're talking about. So, like, for a son, I mean, obviously you want to kind of rear him up. You want to make him a man early, and you want to kind of start building those things up. But for a daughter, I mean, like I said, obviously that's what I have. So for me, man, a lot of that nurturing and all that, all the girly stuff or whatever, that was, what her mom was instilling early on. And as she was getting older, like, so for example, I was actually working and living in a whole different city, and I uprooted myself to come back because she was going to middle school, because I knew this is when it's going to be invaluable for me to be there and for her to explain that other side of the coin that her mom probably couldn't explain to her. So I just think it depends on kind of what the sex of the child is.
Yeah.
So I definitely, I think the son should always live with his father. Um, unless there's like some dire situations where he wasn't able to provide something for the boy where it's not working. You know what I'm saying? I'm kind of just speaking on my own sense. But if in a perfect tense, the son should from day one, from a baby and forever, should always be around his father. Um, I semi feel the same way for a mother, but we can never teach a woman how to be a woman. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So we just don't have it. And to act like or to say um we can handle that side of the coin is completely crazy. I feel. I mean, but I think in both cases, the
No,
kid needs both situations, but the son should always be with the father, and for the sake of the daughter, man, I really can't call it. I wanted I
Again, man,
wanted
like
I
you're
really
saying
can't.
early on, man, regardless of the sex, man, that mother is needed, that nurturing or whatever, man. Like you
Yeah.
can't breastfeed the child. You're gonna be giving them Similac, you know what I mean? Like, so man,
Right,
there's
right.
just early on, man, there's definitely something that needs to be having that, you don't take a puppy away from the nest too early.
But
So I
I think
wouldn't,
it's one of those
you have
things
to.
where early on we can't do that, but I think we need to facilitate them getting that, whether it be by their mother. But I think we still need
Mm.
men need
So you're
control
saying even
over.
by proxy, you're still gonna provide that feminine nurturing
Yeah, it don't have to be
at
by
your house?
me,
Okay.
but
Okay.
you know what I mean. But I'm just I wasn't saying I do. I'm just saying we need
I
to be
have
in
none.
control in how these things are facilitated.
Okay.
I can't give none of that. I can't get none of that. I ain't got none of that. I'm like my man say he emotionally retarded. I ain't got none of that either. I don't like. I really don't feel sorry for people. Like I just tell them this is what you did and this is where you at. Like I can't even. I don't have it. I really don't have it. So
Right.
that's why for me not having my daughters by the time I got them now, when I got them later on in life, it was perfect. Cause now I can tell you, look, cut the shit. This is what it is. Don't be playing. This is what's going on, and this is what it is. Regardless of what you feeling and thinking, that's not right. I'm trying to tell you the truth. And every time they're like, yeah, and then they come back and be like, Dad, you were totally right. Cause like my daughter got played by this guy, and I was just like, this dude is phony. I'm trying to tell you. She's like, no, no, no. And then it blew all up in her face. And it hurt her little soul to be like, Dad, you were so right. Cause I was calling it bluff, like, cause I seen it, like, eh. And
That's
she
why
just
they
like,
used to have
yeah,
arranged marriages back in the day, bro.
yeah, because you can see it. I see this. I'm like, nah, this dude ain't it. But you got to be cool because I can't tell you what to do for real, for real. I mean, I'm trying to, but it's only so much. And I'm fighting the stuff that your mama done sent you away, sent you down here with. You know, so you still trying to use how you used to do at your mama house and how you do with me. And I'm still trying to help. You know, I do fight a little battle and all this stuff just to get her straight. And it still turned out well. She's fine now. She's going to school. But like, I don't know. But I ain't got none of that soft stuff. I'm not emotional at all. I don't have. I don't even really want to be for real. I'm cool on it. That's
Anybody
how
anything
people
to
get
add?
on.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I don't know, I feel a little different, and I don't know if that there's any one size fits all type of thing here, but I mean, like the first couple of years, man, I feel like no matter what gender, man, that mom needs to be right there because there's an emotional connection, an emotional aspect that is in a relationship that's built right there, that bonding from the moment they come out and they're, you know what I mean, that skin to skin contact, like there's a connection that's built in those first couple of years that no matter what the gender is, man, that bond needs to be there. And as far as like when the dad comes in, like for a girl, like in my mind, like there's so many different stages in the girls growing and stuff like that. Like I would never want to take my daughter, like if I was in that situation prior to her going through her menstrual and having that learning situation and then teaching moments with her mother because I'm not equipped. And I came up in a family full of women and I've seen it and I've been over it 1,000 times in but I'm still not equipped to handle that type of situation or have that conversation or nor would she even be comfortable having that conversation with me because it's new to her. So I feel like up until that point, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like in my head, the way it would work is like, if it was from the beginning, like the first couple years, the child is with the mom. Then from that like 2 to maybe like 9, 8, 9 range, they can be with me. And then in that puberty period, they need to be with mom. And then right up after that, when they get in that teenage growing, where they need those life lessons and they need to be taught stuff and they need to learn discipline and structure and then that's when I come back into the picture. Like I feel like there's like intermittent periods where they really need one of us more than the other. That one has to just step up and be in that mode because I know I'm not that emotional type of guy, but I know that I'm that structural type of guy, and I know when I could come in and handle that situation. I probably would have. I don't know if I'd have acted like Vic on that situation, but it probably been somewhere similar to it. Like, why didn't you prepare for this? Why didn't you know? But if they were with me, You know what I mean? I couldn't prepare him for it, so I had to be mad at myself. Which he said he was mad. He was more mad at himself, but he took it out on her. But that's what it would have been. So I think there's like different periods where you have to, where each parent just has to try to take the lead on that. And like if you live close by, then I mean you can share that responsibility. It's easier. But if you live in different states or different counties, for that matter, it's a little bit difficult to handle that.
All right, let's roll into the next question. Hey, that was a good segment. Next question, man. I think y'all gonna love this one. Should non-custodial parents pay child support?
What?
Is
Look,
child
I'ma
support
stand
necessary?
down. Look, I'll be back.
Is
It
child
depends.
support
Say
necessary?
It
non-custodial
depends on
parent.
that
Wait a minute.
specific situation. For
Non-custodial.
real.
Everybody, hey, take a swing at it. Take a swing at it.
Yeah,
Everybody take a swing at it. Because I
So
know
you
everybody.
saying
I
Because
think
that's who
so.
pays the child support is the one who don't have the custody.
But I think yes, because it's a two-party engagement, and so if you're not paying child support, then it's now become a one-party action for a two-party engagement. If you gotta feel me, I mean, you're providing, you're there, you're emotional, but you're not helping in no financial sense at all. Then you create a two-party engagement with one-party action, and I don't know how that's going to ever work. Now, is it always needed? No, but should it be there as an option so that the child's life is better? Most definitely. I mean, if one of the parents has a kid and say, "Well, I don't need it," then cool, put that in a 504, whatever the little 529 plan is. Let's build a college fund or build a savings plan for them over time. But if I do need it, then what will be hesitant in providing it? You know what I mean? That's kind of how I think about it. I think it is a necessity. Now, I don't think it should be regulated by outsiders, but I think it is a necessity.
Yeah, that
That's what I was about to say.
regulation.
I was about to say, are we talking about child support regulated by the government? Or are we talking about somebody being there financially to help out, in situations when they need to happen? 'Cause
Uh,
that was two different things for
I'm
me.
talking about government regulation.
Okay.
the system backwards? Men should have birth control besides condoms. Then we wouldn't have to worry about child support. We would
Yeah.
impregnate who we want, and we would take care of the kid. At least the smart ones that's popping their own pills, but long as the women is having to take birth control and all this, it's all backwards. But support should be given on both sides. But no, if I think it, man, if we wouldn't even worry about child support wouldn't even be a problem if men had birth control options besides a condom, and they're gonna tell us some crap like, oh, we release less sperm count than they release eggs, or whatever rules they want to give us to make us think we shouldn't be in control of it. They're gonna give it to us and we're gonna believe it. But the women being in control of this just by being able to have a shot of birth control, and it's not working. It still gets all raggedy now. They using that money for anything out here, man. It's all kind of crazy, man. But like you say, Vic say get custody of your kids, you don't gotta have this problem. That's what Vic say. Because
Well,
child
my
support
my
is a
specific situation, we visited it, but we ultimately decided not to do it. So and I've been pretty hands on with my kids since the womb. So we share a lot of the responsibility. If it's things that come up with them that she is more suited to handle, then she takes care of it, and vice versa. But I don't necessarily think child support is needed. But if I mean, if dad is just not trying to be there, then I can see the purpose for it. But I don't really believe in child support.
Anybody else?
We done? No, not at all. I don't believe in it. Specifically, if you're, like my man just mentioned, like especially if you're involved. I can speak for myself. I mean, we're talking semantics. I mean, literally, I had the kid 49% of the time. So it was a semantics that you were the non-custodial. So I'm like, so I'm sending money over there, but there's nothing coming back when I have her the other 49% of the time. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And with that being said, if that wasn't something that was court mandated or whatever, you would have been more likely to say, okay, I don't know if I could make this work it without it being mandated. So it would have been one of those things where, oh, I'm gonna be a little bit more compliant and I'm gonna do a better job of working and being agreeable to what's needed. Because at the end of the day, I mean, the money really wasn't an issue from my side. So at the very end of it, I mean, I'm gonna do whatever's needed for the child. But when I see that it's being manipulated, and when I see that there's a certain level of, I want to be useful, not used, that's when I have an issue with it.
I'm gonna go ahead and piggyback off of that, man. I definitely say no, and just based on how our community set up, like I think child support hinders us into only providing in one way, and
Mhm.
if we don't provide in that specific way, it does a lot more damage to us than than it needs to be. Get arrested, take all that stuff, right? There was a time where I got arrested and I had the kids with me, and I'm like, what am I like? What you here for? And it was like, oh well, child support. I'm like, child support. My kids are right here. Like you're arresting me in front of the kids. Like so, it was just one of those things where I definitely don't think it's needed. Um,
Mhm.
and I say that because there's a lot of different ways in providing for our children. You know what I mean? And if we all know that black folks particularly shake and move a lot of different ways. So no, I don't have a W-2, but I still can get these Pampers by, talking and making this move, making that move. I can still get this Similac by making that. There's different ways. Like I know this guy, who has this. Like we just move differently. You know what I mean? So it doesn't necessarily work for us, and how we provide because we provide in a lot of different ways. Leafer, for instance, when's the last time you went grocery shopping? Right. So it's basically because a situation where you can get food a different way. And if I could get food without having to spend the money, you know what I mean? Maybe I like built a wall or, it's kind of like the bartering system that we're used to functioning as. So it doesn't work for our community. Maybe other communities, it might be, resourceful, but we don't move in a way where it's always W-2 to what I mean in that way. And we all know it's highly manipulated or whatever. And the child support system is abused. And I think
100%.
quite frankly, we need to fight back on getting some laws pushed and changed. But that first comes with men men stepping up and stop being afraid of the law and go out there and try to change some laws. So um I know Hit
Yeah.
might have a perspective on this. You got something to say, bro?
Man, you finally let me in, son. I was over here being silenced by this mute mic. You know what I'm saying? But I'm back, baby. Y'all can't silence me, man. You know what I'm saying? I got something to say. Hey, yeah, I think with child support, man, I'm kind of I mean, thank God that I'm not on it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a part of the system. But that's because I am, you know what I'm saying, a prototype type of dad, you know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna step up, I'm gonna do what I'm supposed to do, I'm gonna be there. But you got some guys that, don't do it. And I'm not saying from financially, but some dudes that if it wasn't for child support, they probably wouldn't do nothing. You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about nobody on this call, but you know what I'm saying? There's some people that, that really holds accountability to them. And I think women and men, you know what I'm saying? So I think if you're the type of guy that, you know what I'm saying, is gonna be there and is gonna do what you're supposed to do, now I don't think you need child support. I think like Cass said, that shit creates in society, it voids out the man. You know what I mean? You put the money there, but there's nothing else to raise the kid by. The morals, the values, and the principles is all gone, but they got money. But there's also some dudes that won't do nothing. You know what I'm saying? If it wasn't for child support. So I think it's a dual sword type thing on that from that perspective.
What you got, Dex? What's your thoughts on child support? I know you might not be in a situation, but you guys some similar situations where it may or may not be needed. So go ahead and speak on it.
Yeah, I definitely agree that, it's unfortunate if it gets to that point, where, you got to involve, I guess, government or whatever to mandate how you support your kids. But hopefully, if you do have a child, you understand that responsibility, and you step up and just kind of handle it, right? Work it out with the mom. If you're not on those good terms, just work it out with the mom on how you want to support that child through its years, right? It shouldn't really have to come to child support, but I do see, I mean, from family members and stuff like that, if it wasn't for that, people would be on their own, taking this whole burden on themselves. So yeah, some people need it, I guess, but it's a shame that it would have to get to that level.
Uh, so I think more people would become cooperative in working with each other if that wasn't in place, though,
I
which
was
would
going to
make
say that.
a overall better environment for the child. So, you know what I mean? So I think it really hinders. It does more damage than good. I think it really hinders the progress of the child and the love, nurturing, all that. Because I know guys who be like, well, and that's all you're getting. You know what I mean? Like, here's your check. Don't call me for nothing. I'm not taking nothing. Like, you know what I mean? I gave you your check, right? So, I mean, that don't work for the kid either. You know what I mean? So and I don't think the courts necessarily, they don't care. They're a part of getting they're just getting their slice from it. You know what I mean? So they don't necessarily care what's best. Like, oh, it's kind of like what was that mom movie? Like in dude was like, well, I want you to be a partner in my restaurant. He was like, I don't know nothing about restaurants. And he's like, well, I don't care, but people will pay if you're a part of it. Well, okay, you want me to have a cut? I don't care what happens, you got to pay me. You know what I mean? So if the bar is short, pay me. I don't want to say everything, but you understand what I'm saying. You know what I
But
mean?
yo,
So
I'm just saying, but in a situation where you got the guy or the woman that'll buy the bottle in a section but won't buy the Pampers, you know, that's what some of that court regulated child support is for. I mean, it does have a purpose. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it's the end all be all, but there is, what I'm saying, some benefits to having it.
I think it also contributes to the vetting process, though, right? You're a little bit more logical on who.
But I think that changes the perception because you could be you could be in the club popping the bottle and have a room full of diapers and formula at the crib. Just wait for her to call and just pick it up. You know what I mean? So that is it. But if you weren't on child support, she ain't gonna be counting your dollars when you're out in the club and doing everything there because she know that at any point in time she can just stop by the house. The first room on the right gonna have 1,500 pampers in it. You know what I mean? So you have different communication there. Kind of like Mo was saying a little earlier. I think it changes the mentality of the female to go from okay, let's negotiate to here. This is the contract that you have to stick to. There is no more negotiation, and that negotiation is done in most times without any real, I would say, understanding of either party's true life. They take a snapshot or with their perception of it and create a financial understanding of their breakdown from there forward. I don't think that creates anything that is actually positive. I think it's a negative thing because one of the things I've always looked at, and I looked at this from completely different aspects. I'm a numbers guy, I do data. Okay, if I walk in with my child and my mom, me and the child's mom are low income, they calculate child support to be at what? This, let's say $300 a month. They're telling me that my child is worth $300 a month to raise between the two of us. But if another guy comes in who makes 200, $300,000 a year, his kid is getting 20 grand a month. And so they're literally giving you the value of your child, and it's the same human being, same flesh and blood. But because one person makes a little more than the other, they value the value of the child so that the banks and the courts can get a greater cut of it when it's literally the same standard across. It's a kid that you're supporting, but they want to get greater deals of money. And it's going to also be a lot of times based off of your demographics and where you are. And so a lot of those things go into play. And you have females who know, okay, if I'm in this area, if I'm in this state, I can do this, this, and this. If I'm in this area, in this state, I can do this, this, and this. And before you know it, the guy's in a situation where he's like, wow, I didn't realize that it had this, 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 and this stacked against me. I was just trying to be there for my kid.
Yo, I
So
don't
So
that,
now, go ahead.
know. The difference is I just want to touch on that the point when he said The difference between the 300 guy who's paying 300 and the guy who makes 200,000 who's going to pay 1,000. That's just based off the lifestyle that you was going to provide for the child in general. You know what I'm saying? But with me is with child support is like 80-20. 80% no, but that 20% of the guys that is not accountable, or that say guys because it's women too, that's not accountable. It has a place. I think it's been exploited. I think at one time that women or men use it as a supplement of income. You know what I'm saying? They've been with somebody and they want to make sure that they somehow they're gonna have them use it as a supplement of. And
There
Hey,
you
you
go,
going
breaking up
out?
again, man. You gotta get a new service.
Hey, you gotta lose custody of the phone. But so,
Here we
but to
got,
piggyback, I want to piggyback on what we were saying before we go into the next point. But um, again, like as somebody who's actually gone through it, like man, it felt like only the people, or I'll say the men who wanted to be involved were the ones that were being punished. Man, I was in a courtroom. They heard it. It's like cattle, around here talking about you want to mediate or you want to go in and do the math equation on you. And I was like, by the way, I had to go and get a babysitter in order to come to this court hearing. So I was like, I don't think that y'all understand this situation. This cookie cutter doesn't fit into my situation that y'all about to do to me. And literally, the dudes who didn't show up, the dudes who they couldn't find, they were like, "Up, couldn't find him. You know where he worked? Well, I think he's a hustler." And they were just like, "Oh well." The dudes who was actually working or wanted to be involved, and the guys that they could find were the ones that were being punished. And I was like, "This system is broken." So I don't think it's the guys who's popping bottles. Like I don't like if you don't want to be involved, you're not going to be involved anyway. So a lot of times, man, the dudes that are being punished are the ones who actually are trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, that's ultimately why we decided not to do it because we both walked in there and was looking at everybody the same way. Like, damn, this is definitely not us, and that's
Yeah, I
not
was like,
you.
why am I here?
Right?
Like,
Like
not
you
you know,
there for
not to
your
be
kids.
elitist or whatever, but I was like, this ain't it.
And we
Like,
both
I'm
walked
not
out.
them. I'm Timothy. I was like, this ain't working. So,
Yep.
yeah,
I have a blessed situation
yeah.
That you
for
do.
real.
every situation ain't bad, right?
Nah, it ain't.
To segue into the next one, right? Next question. How do we handle the lack of support from the co-parent?
When you say like you're speaking in from the perspective of the
Oh,
custodial parent or the non-custodial parent.
I'm speaking of it's not custodial or non-custodial, right? Being that we're all prototype dads up here, right? We put in a certain amount of effort in how we raise our kids. I'm not saying, moms do that as well. Um, we have ideas and ways we want to do things. How do we handle the other parent not cooperating or lacking the vision to see how we're trying to do these things, right? Raise the kid the right way. Or, completely against we got daughters, we don't want our daughters to start wearing makeup until a certain age, that kind of stuff, right? So how do we handle a non-cooperative co-parent?
Look,
Choose
I could start it
wisely.
off.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
Choose
y'all,
at that
wisely.
y'all.
point it's too late.
At
Look,
first,
at that point it's too
y'all gotta
late.
make sure
Yeah, it's too late about choosing wisely at that point. The decision's already made. They here or whatever, right?
Yep.
But what I found is, man, I stand on who I am. I don't bend. Like if you go against what I said, that was a you choice, right? So, and that's fine. But for me, man, like my daughter's going to get what she needs regardless, at least for me. So whatever there's a deficit, whatever there's a shortfall, like I'm not going back to the custodial agreement with a divorce decree to say, oh, well, I was only supposed to provide 50%. Like I'm going to give her whatever I have to give, whether it be emotional, whatever. Definitely monetarily, but whatever it is that I feel that she needs, and if there's a deficit on the other side, I'm going to provide it to the best of my ability.
Somebody else want to chime in on that?
Yeah, I
Um.
think. Go
Go
ahead, my
ahead.
man. Go ahead.
Now you got it.
Yeah, I think. In a situation like that, um, you gotta understand. You know what I'm saying, and keep. You know what I mean, the goal. In mind. So, if the goal is, you know what I mean, to to raise your kids to the best of your ability, and you're not getting the support, you got to supplement. And you know what I'm saying? Like you can't even, like with me, I don't even worry about, you know what I mean? I ask, and if it don't happen, I'm gonna make it happen because that's who I am, because this is something I want. And I think if you want something enough, you know what I'm saying, you're gonna do whatever you gotta do to get it. I know we all been something that we wanted, and that we, you know what I'm saying, we made the sacrifices to get it. And I think you just gotta want that bad, and don't even worry. Like I don't even worry about, you know what I mean, what my co-parent does or what's not gonna do. Because you know what I'm saying, I feel like this is my goal and I'm gonna make it happen. I just, you know, I think you just, a lot of times we get caught up with them and that takes us off the goal. You know what I'm saying? We lose the mark. But you know what I mean? In that situation, you just gotta stay focused, man. Understand what's the goal, man.
I think following out that the same way, staying consistent with the kid to me is the best way to handle that situation because for me, and especially when it's an older child, when I like I didn't go through the not wearing makeup type of thing. I'm going through the okay, have a car, not have a car type of thing, and it's when you're in that phase, if you show like for me, I like to show every detail, every note. I'm not going to say, hey, I want to do something just because. I'm going to provide all the details. Here's the proof. Here's how it works. Here's the layout. Here's the plan, and if they still say no, then I'm just going to remain consistent at showing why it's the plan, why it's going to work, until they come around or until my daughters come around. Most of the time, my daughters may see it, their moms may not see it. We have a great enough connection where they're going to still be able to operate and execute with me, whereas I don't have to be so lenient, I would say dependent upon the moms for different situations like that. But when you have a parent that makes it difficult, like honestly for me, I step back just so I didn't want my daughters to see any type of negative energy or interaction that got a little crazy. So I kind of just like fell back a little bit and stayed consistent with everything that I've been doing from the beginning. And that consistency just in the end for me just won it over, but it wasn't like it was overnight in 17, 18 years.
Hmm.
So I would say for me it's and this is why I started out with saying the father should have complete control, man. Because essentially it's on us to overcompensate. I know moms do this too, don't get me wrong, but it's well, communication for one, right? And you try to communicate as much as you can, but we're talking about non-cooperating co-parents, right? So no matter how much you can communicate to your blue in the face, they're not going to be on plan, right? And that's what Mo Better was kind of speaking to. You're not with that person because they're not on plan. Um, and that's why I was saying control is so important. But you got to overcompensate, and it sucks sometimes to have to overcompensate some of those needs, because you don't necessarily had the toolkit to do that. You know what I mean? You only can provide what you can provide as that parent. But you just got to overcompensate. I think Mo spoke to that too. Like, look, I'm gonna be emotional with you if I need to be. If that's what this is, whatever's called for. Hey, that's what this is called for. So, if this, of course I handle the monetary, but emotional or the friendship, all just those little things that you might need. The support, making sure your parent ain't gonna come to the games. I'm gonna be at every single one of them. I'm not gonna miss one. You know what I mean? That kind of deal, right? So uh, it's just an overcompensation, and the tough thing about it is you get frustrated, like, man, my other parent ain't worth a dang, man. Like, like how you let this one, how you drop the ball on that? Like, oh, you couldn't see that coming. Like, you know what I mean? There's some clear cut things that you see that the other parent just don't see, and then and you're trying your hardest to prevent these things. We're out here trying to we're curse breaking essentially, right? If I want to put it into a term, we're out here trying to break all these curses that have been laid on us. And when the co-parent don't see that how the curse started or what you're trying to succeed, trying to necessarily accomplish, man, it's a rough road. But buckle in tight. You know what I mean? You're gonna have to pull out some miracles. So overcompensating and just buckling for the road, right? So I want to kind of go, quickly. It looks like I'm gonna have to, have a part two to this, right? So I really wanted to talk about being a stepdad, right? And we deal with these things, and I don't want to talk about them in a negative way if it's worth it or not, right? I want to talk about it in the way of now that we're in these stepdad roles, what's the best way to go about some of the things we because we could come in as a stepdad and we're trying to love a child that's not ours, right? And it's difficult. A step parent in general, it's super difficult to be a step parent. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
you're never going to get uh you're never going to get the same satisfaction out of it, right? Because that's just how it is. So the first trouble in that, right? And noticing, and becoming a stepdad is dealing with the new spouse, right? So how do we go about dealing with new boyfriends and baby daddies and that kind of stuff, man? So anybody got something to say about how to even approach that, right? How to get in that situation?
Well, in an ideal situation, in my mind, me and that gentleman is having a conversation at least, and he knows, uh, has an idea of how I'm trying to raise my kids. He's I don't even know how to explain this, but because I ain't had to deal with it, but yeah.
Yeah, look,
In my mind,
woo.
I would want this dude to be like a supporter. I mean, he like we in this together type shit, but it may not be the case.
Look, I'm gonna hit the
So,
Dax. I don't know nothing about it, so it's all theoretical. It's hypothetical at this point. But but in all seriousness, though, man, it's a thankless job. I mean, it's something that man. I had a stepfather that raised me, and his family took me in, like that support or whatever. So that's dope. But personally, man, it's thankless. It's something that I steered away from. I want no parts of it. But I'll stand down. Y'all can take it from here. I don't want no parts of that one.
Communication.
Yeah,
Communication and for as hard as it is to do for men of our complexion, removal of ego. Be real with you. Like, and for some of us it's a little harder than others. I have this theory that your ego goes down with the more you've done in life versus the more you haven't, because you feel like you have to prove something versus you have proved something. And so you get to a place in life where you can actually control it. But if you can't control that ego, even your communication is going to get crazy. You're not going to be able to keep a consistent, level head of communication. I think that's the number one thing. Even, like Rob was saying, hey, I understand how I do things in my life and in my house. Well, what if something, in my house changes the way we do things, and I would need that to be relayed? Okay, I don't want to have to, run up on the dude like, hey, man, my daughter did it. I'm like, hey, bro, like, look, for the next 6 weeks, we took the phone from everybody. So when she on your end, just make sure ain't no phone. All right, we cool with that, boss? All right, cool. Hey man, I'll lock it down on this side. Appreciate you, man. Let's push. And that's it. But it can't be like, oh well, when she come to my side, yeah, she got our phone. Well, okay, well, I mean, that obviously is gonna show me that this ain't gonna operate correctly. And you do realize that this is a child that I am trying to chastise, I'm trying to discipline, I'm trying to show direction for. And if you're going to go against that, then that's not going to be conducive or conductive for this person as a citizen, even if it wasn't a child that we're both supposed to care the same amount about. And so I literally started playing with like guilt mentally. Like I'll go that level of like, what I'm saying? Let's think about society. Take ourselves out of it. I really try to work on getting the ego out, because I know for myself early on, that was what it was. I was like, he ain't me. What you need somebody else for? I could do that, this, and this. And then it was like, okay, I started to see the world from a greater sense. And it was like, all right, like you said, it's a thankless job. I appreciate you. I started to do more things for his kids that weren't my kids. You know what I'm saying? Things like that, because I started to understand his presence there helped not replace my presence, but extend my presence, as long as we had a clear communication channel. And that was what I was trying to maintain.
Hey, that's dope. That's dope, right? Like I caught that last bit you said, right? Is like I have a plan to do XYZ, right? You know your plan is better, right? But in order for that to work, you had to get him on board. You know what I mean? It's basically how you said. That's what I heard. Like I ended up building a bond with him so he could get on board with what I'm trying to do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's
Cause I
that's
mean, I got 4 daughters, Kev, to be real with you, and my daughters have a connection, strong enough connection with me and other close males that they go to them and they will have communications. And so I'm like, if this dude is going to be close to their mother, they're going to be having the same type of conversations with him that they have with me. We need to be on the same plane. You know what I mean? Because if we're not, then on this side they're hearing oh the craziness, and on this side they're hearing oh be calm, and I could be the craziness and the other person could be the calm, but either way it's not the same. And so now they're trying to figure out, well, which one do I like better? And that's where that kid gets torn or pulled
Mm-hmm.
toward, oh well, I want to be here, I want to be there, because every the culture within the house, or the plane that the communication is on has fallen. And if it's not there, then that kid is lost in that communication, in that relationship. I think it will suffer.
Yo, you know what was so dope also about that is that he took the opportunity to establish the relationship not based off the woman's perspective. Because often in a situation like that, the other guys is hearing her perspective of you, or if you're that guy, you're hearing her perspective of him. And y'all, you know what I'm saying? Y'all really was on some man time and begin a relationship based off of what you guys see from each other. You know what I'm saying? What you pick up from her as a man. And I think that's important. That you know what I'm saying, we understand that, you know what I mean, that perception is coming from somebody else, and we gotta as like dads, we gotta establish, you know what I'm saying, our own grounds with a person.
Yeah.
y'all
Can I
know.
speak?
I'm
So
Can
waiting
I
for
now,
say
somebody
something
to
right
speak.
quick?
I'm waiting for
Can
somebody to chime in here.
All right,
yeah, I
look,
do.
okay. I've been around my stepson for 6 years. 6 years I've been around him. And like one of the first things I did when I first met him, I cut his hair. This first time I'm a barber, I cut hair. So I cut his hair, I talked to him, and I basically let him know, like, look, bro, he was 6 years old, and I was just being 100 honest with him. I'm not trying to replace your father. I ain't trying to be your father. I ain't trying to be your dad. I'm just want to be somebody that's going to help you get through where you need to go in life. And this is like one of the first conversations I had with him. And like he was at first he was kind of a little rocky, but over time I done taught him so many things. Like he just went to spend time with he goes to see his dad every summer, but he went to spend time with his dad in Texas for the summer. And all he did was tell his dad everything that I taught him, like whether it was to cook an egg or fix a flat tire or hang pictures on the wall, anything, everything was like, and his dad even said, like, man, your husband is really good, really good with my son. And then that me and him have had a conversation. Like, bro, I'm not trying to, I met him a couple times, shook his hand, talked to him, man, face to face. Bro, we want the same thing for your son. And that's all we want. He took him to a gun range down in Texas. He called me first, like, yo, hey, do you mind if I take Robbie, he in Texas, do you mind if I take Robbie to go shooting at a gun range? I'm like, bro, look, man, make memories with your son, fam. Do stuff with him that I wouldn't do because I'm not taking him to no gun range. You know what I'm saying? But enjoy your time with your son. Do stuff with him, bro, because I'm going to do whatever I can with him, and I'm not throwing it in your face. But he's definitely going to come back and tell you. You know what I'm saying? He's going to tell you what he did with me or what he learned from me. So you're going to have to teach him some things too. You know what I'm saying? Because matter of fact, yesterday he was outside with his shoes off on outside in the grass talking about something. I'm like, boy, get in the house. You got your shoes off, boy. You looking nasty outside. You ain't got no da da da. He like, I'm grounded.
That's
I'm grounded.
that Texas coming out.
So I'm like, ground. He's like, yeah, my dad said, you got to make sure you ground yourself every once in a while. I'm like, okay,
Yes, sir.
you're right. Your dad was right, but you're not finna use that right now because you think you're slick. But you know what I'm saying? But I'm never going to tell him anything his dad said is wrong unless I really think it's wrong. But I really don't want to do all of that. But you know what I'm saying? But you should have some type, if you can establish a good relationship with the other person that's in your child's life, if it's possible, because some people just bitter and be mad and still be wanting to do stuff with you, know what I'm saying, and all that other stuff. But if you can establish a good relationship, you know what's real, just just keep it real. You ain't, you know what I'm saying, just keep it real with the son and with the father. Cause I really appreciated the fact, I'm like, dude, you ain't gotta call me to if you want to go shoot that gun with your son, that's your son still. He ain't here with me for 6 years, but you can go do what you want to do with your son. Go enjoy it, bro. As long as you ain't teaching nothing crazy, you know. But that's all I got.
No, that's dope, and salute to you for that, man. I got a lot of respect for stepfathers or whatever. And as y'all was talking on the last question, man, I was looking something up, and I looked up. It said that it costs $300,000 to raise a child. So, one of the things that I thought about, so one, is it worth it for me to do that? And then I went back to, I always remember this, man, Zion Williamson, man, he got drafted in the NBA. So he goes through all this or whatever, and he thanks his mom or whatever, and da da da. And I remember they never put his stepfather on camera, and he was the one who put the ball in his hand, the one who gave him the game. He played semi-pro ball and all this stuff. And I always went back and I was like, yo, this can be one of the most thankless jobs there is. So salute to you for doing that. But for me, that's why I was like, man, I don't even want to put myself in that situation because I was thinking about what I could have did with that 300,000.
But for me, as a stepdad, I'll be real. Um, I view it the same way I almost view my daughters. Like my stepdaughter. I have three biological daughters, and one in between of them is my stepdaughter. And for me, it's really like, okay, are you ready for this? Because the standards that I hold my other girls to, you're going to be held to those same standards. And it turned into the opportunities. I was like, okay, when you get between middle school, I'm going to start preparing you for what you think high school is going to be. Couple of my older daughters, it was sports. She didn't like sports. She went into drones. So we started to prepare her for that. But there were many times when she was like, well, why are we out here for 12 hours flying drones? I was like, it's no different than me being with Kiera for 14 hours doing batting cage and sliding drills and catching drills, or being with Jordan and doing hours of volleyball training. This is the thing that you've chosen to be your it thing. I'm going to go all in with you. Whatever you choose, we're going to go all in with it. And I mean, we started a business with her doing all that. Her dad would come in. We'd be in the booth together. I'm commentating. Her dad's right beside me, helping her see the view of the drone and things like that. I wanted him engulfed in it because she again would talk to him about all the things that she did with me, and I wanted to be for him to have that same joy. Like I watched her walk up to other friends and be like, "Yeah, that's one flying drones with. That's my dad, whatever." And I would want her to have the same joy when she's walking through the store with her biological dad. So I'm like, hey, bro, come in to get some of this experience. This is pretty cool. I just was more so, okay, the experiences that you're going to get aren't going to be catered or cultured just for you. They're going to be just for you because they got to be for you as a person, but you're going to get the same infrastructure that my other kids would or would have or are getting, that are my biological kids. You just got to be prepared for that type of setup because I'm not going to be like, oh, okay, well, you're not mine. So it's okay if you don't do this. No, I'm going to have the same level of expectations because I care about you the same way. I don't look at you any different. Yes, your flesh and blood may be different, but I still look at once you've come into my house, even though you may not have my last name, I still look at you as part of my legacy. And for me, that's like the biggest thing that matters in family is you're part of my legacy. And so I want to protect and provide for whatever you want to become.
No, and that's dope. I mean, I applaud you for that, and I feel the same way if I made that decision. Like once I have them, yeah, let's go ahead,
Yeah.
hey.
Yo, let me get mine. Let me get mine off. I know we over. Let me get mine off real quick though,
Go ahead,
because I
get
know
yours.
we over time. Yeah, like I mean, I know everybody hear me talking about my daughter over and over, man. She's the light of my life. She's the joy of my life. But she's not my biological daughter. I mean, I've been raising her since she was 2 years old. She's 15 now. She's about to be 16 in a couple months. You know what I mean? And I mean, it's been the most amazing experience in the world. Like for me, like, because I always think of myself as that teacher, that motivator, you know what I mean? That provider. So, you know what I mean? Having that relationship with her was from the moment I met her was like always important. Like I wanted to make sure that she never felt any different than anybody else in my family and that she always had that, that almost like I feel like it's to the point right now where we're both brainwashed into believing that we're all blood relatives right now. You know what I mean? Like like my cousins, my cousins, like my little cousins and stuff, like they got kids that are around my daughter's age, and they kick it together and they hang and they tough like blood. Like, you know what I mean? Like the bond is real. So, for me, it's super important to make sure that, she felt like she was a part of this family. And, on the flip side of this, like, I've never really had a conversation with her father, like, in regards to like how I'm parenting or how I'm gonna do these things or anything like that. But like I said, like we don't live in the same state, so but we go down there, pretty often, and we see each other, and we embrace each other. It's like we're just this big connective family, and he understands like, look, I'm raising her to be a productive human being. You know what I mean? I'm raising her with love. She's a part of my family, and I understand that she is a part of your family too. And I make sure that relationship is maintained. I make sure I make sure I remind her to call regularly, because now she's in this teenage where it's all about her. She don't give a dang. So I make sure that she calls her family down there, and that she keeps in touch, and that she keeps a stellar relationship with them. But in my house, and then and in my family, like she is an integral part of it, and she's like my daughter. Like like you'll never hear me say step, like, because I'm not going to put a space in between her and me. You know what I mean? I'm not going to allow there to be any kind of space that makes her feel like something else. You know what I mean? She is my daughter, and that's that. So, you know what I mean? I just feel like that, for me, that's the major key. You know what I mean? Especially if you have somebody living in your household, they can't feel different. They got to feel the same way as everybody else in the household. And that has to run through the whole family. I mean, I've had fights with people in my family, all over, because it's like, yo, you will not treat her as any different than anybody else. This is blood. This is family, and that just is what it is for me, man. It can't be anything else. If you got somebody that you're raising, you got to raise them like they blood. And it has to be understood all across the board, like what the mission is. Like my man said, he said, ego free. You got to let go of the ego. This isn't about you. It's about the kid. It's about the well-being of the kid. So,
So I know we're going to end it, but let me get back on this. So I respect everything that y'all saying. Once y'all in it, I'm saying prior to that, like we were all saying prevention or whatever. I'm just saying I would rather not make that decision. But I agree with y'all. Once y'all in it, and actually you have a stepchild and they're living in your family and in your home, absolutely you treat them as if they're your own. But I'm just saying, I probably, if I could do it, I wouldn't do it if I had the choice. But no, I definitely respect what y'all saying, and man, kudos to y'all.
So I mean, we kind of covered all the points I had about all the questions, right? That I had about for stepfathers. I guess the last question, we can end on this, right? If that other parent is a deadbeat, do we even care about their support?
Hell no.
Nah.
No.
Well,
I mean,
hell, we don't need
Yeah,
it
deadbeat or not, I
anyway.
mean, I don't
they
care
don't
because
exist.
yeah, like we
We don't
said,
need
like
it
we're
anyway.
Support,
essentially
no.
we're all the
Presence,
prototype.
if possible. I don't. If they're a deadbeat, I don't want the support. I don't want them to struggle for the support.
I
If they
don't
could
even
see
want
your
that
face
negative money.
2 times a year, 3 times a year on birthday, Christmas, and Thanksgiving, if you're that stable, then I can live with it.
Okay, so let me segue to this, right? If you married a woman with a kid, you know what I mean? Would you encourage her to take that child support off him if it brung negative to your situation? Would you be like, man, we don't even need that. Keep it.
Yes.
I would tell her to take it off.
I mean, I've been there with it. I can't control, the end result decision of what she makes, and I don't even try to. But I have the conversation like, yo,
I
this is
think
That
unnecessary.
that
It's
should
uh,
be
unnecessary.
it be
I
more
think
in the
first of the
way. It be
courts.
keep that, bro.
Right.
Keep
It's,
that
First of
it's
the
little
in the way.
courts is too
So
much.
if you see something clearly in the way, and is bringing strife to your family, right? That other parent's presence or lack of support or whatever is bringing negativity to your home, right?
I think you can find other ways for them to keep that responsibility and accountability. If that's not the thing that they can do, then work with them in other ways. That's what I think is possible. But I
I
think there's
think if
other
you
ways
a
for them.
man, I'm giving you listen. If I'm with the woman and she has a kid, I marry a woman, she got a kid. Which situation I'm in right now? Technically, dude, we don't really need you. Okay, I'm gonna tell your son to call you and stuff like that. But if he chooses not to, he doesn't have to. She tells you she wants some money for some shoes or some shit. She just doing it because she wants to do. Because she never asked me to. I'm gonna tell him that she just does that. If you don't give it, so what? We don't need you, bro. We're giving you a chance. I'm gonna always give you a chance. I'm not gonna cut you off. You cannot do nothing for 2-3 years and come back and be like, hey, I want to look out. All right, come on. What you got?
When
But
you have
we
a
don't
problem
need
with
it.
when you have a problem with her asking him regardless.
Yo, but check this out though. The money's not for you; it's for the kid.
Yeah, I don't give a care about the money.
The money's for the
Right.
kid though.
So her asking somebody else for anything for somebody in your house under your care.
She can
The
ask the
dad,
daddy.
if he wants parental rights, I mean, if any man, if you contribute to your child and you growing up, I mean, you're gonna want some type of say on what's going on with your child. But I think if we looking at it from if he's putting money in the household, or he's putting money towards his child.
No, I'm saying his support. His support is bringing strife to your house. Like he can't really provide that check or whatever, but she's like stuck on getting it anyway.
Oh, that's definitely
But
Oh,
what
that.
that's
that
a
ain't
whole
That's
different.
like,
That's
strife. That's
boy.
that's
easy.
a whole
That's
different
strife.
question.
Yeah,
Good.
I don't think that's one we
Look,
can
you about to
answer.
be a
Yo,
co-parent to the
but look,
stepkid.
yo,
She's still
Girl,
ain't
you
taking
want
your
the money
authority.
of me? What the hell?
yeah,
You
that's
want
what
the
I'm saying.
money of
Look,
me?
if
I'm
that
gonna be
happens,
gone.
that means she's still attached, dog. You might want
Yeah,
to
So,
rethink that.
100%.
right. Do you want the money of me?
Yeah, you might want to look
Look,
at that one.
What the
look,
hell is you
Yeah,
want,
for
the fact
real.
girl?
that look, because I would
He
be a
still got
hypocrite.
it.
So like I
I know
said,
he's straight. I know
so
he's
like
straight.
I
He
said in
got
the
to
very
take care of his
beginning,
kids.
Girl, shut up.
so like I
Shut
said in the
up.
very beginning, I don't believe in it. So I still don't believe in it. So once they're under my covering and once I'm raising them, like we don't need it. But again, I don't believe in it. So
What's
obviously that would be my take.
what's
But
300,000 divided by 18?
hold on,
I don't know. We got a lot of numbers guys on here though.
Who I can't. What's 300,000 divided by
170,
18? I want to know this number.
$16,666.
16,000 a year?
Yes, sir.
Man, you can do that, man. That's 1,500 a month.
Give or take.
That
Okay.
ain't a big
Less than
number.
that.
I'm
I
gonna
mean,
tell you explain your
there's a lot of guys that can't do that though. You know what I mean? If you think about it,
But
I
but
mean,
That's
if we go
Most
if we
guys
go
can't.
with the average, if the average they're
Most
saying is
guys
forty
can't do
thousand
that.
for men.
well, you also got to remember that most guys start on who potentially will start on child support are between the ages of 17 and 21 as well. Most of those guys are in our ages. You know what I mean? So
Mm,
if you think
yeah.
about going into this, if
wow,
I
that's
give you
a
a perfect
huge stat
example.
right
I have
there.
a friend who's 40 who's going to court tomorrow who potentially could be faced with this. His mental was completely different than the kid who's going to court at 17, who doesn't have their life together, who doesn't know where they're going to be getting their next meal from, because they're probably still getting it from mom or dad, or even someone who's 19 or 20 who hasn't been able to get on their feet. So that's and there's a time and place for everything. I don't support child support through the governmental structure
The
in
system
any
is a
sense, but
it's a
when you
jam.
have someone who's 40, like my homie is going into it, you have someone 17, even if they both go in with a lawyer, they're going in with two different total life experiences. And you're not going to expect that 17-year-old to operate as that 40-year-old would. And you would hope that 40-year-old would not operate as a 17-year-old would, and that their outcomes may be different. And so when you have a system kind of like Mo was saying earlier that's set up and it don't fit that cookie cutter, everybody don't fit into those molds, then those who fall outside the edges tend to be the ones to get burned, literally.
Facts. 31% of 32,000 hits a whole lot different than 31% of 100,000. I'm
Especially for especially for a 17-year-old that ain't got on his feet yet. Like,
Oh
you know what
my
I mean? 21-year-old that ain't got on his feet yet. Like, you know what I mean? We don't hit our
They coming
stride
for
until
your work
we
study
30.
check.
Yeah.
Let me get some of that work study
Try,
check.
I was trying to tell y'all the system is toe up.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, man. I was
The
in
system
college
is
paying it
tore
out of
up.
my
Decision making is
scholarship.
tore up too. Because
Decision making is toe up too.
a lot of stuff we talking about, we're sympathetic for people making badass decisions. You know what I mean? And we're not talking about how to teach these people to make better decisions. You know what I
Facts.
mean? So we can be bad about the system, but we put ourselves in the system. You know what I mean? The system don't
100%.
come looking for us. If we put ourselves in the system, and the system just do what it do. So if we figure out how to stay the heck out the system, then we're not even having this conversation.
I mean,
The system's messed
episode
up.
1 though, right?
Let's stay out of it.
Stop shooting up the club.
Stop shooting
That's
up the
it.
club.
Hey, but the
Wrap it
system,
up.
the
Hey,
system,
man.
the system
We're
got
gonna
women.
wrap it up, man. I appreciate you guys, man. This was a powerful one, yo. I really appreciate you guys, man. This
We
is
gotta
gonna help
have
a lot of
part
people.
two.
Yeah, we gotta have a part 2.
Talk about the system.
Look,
Part
the
two,
after
the
hours.
system.
Look, once we hit the system, that's an after hours discussion.
Hey,
I'm gonna need a drink for that one.
Yeah, look. It ain't gonna be this for that
It's
conversation.
gonna be a cigar lounge and a strong whiskey.
yeah, man.
Yeah,
Hey, I'm gonna drop a bomb on this one. I really appreciate y'all though, for sure.
Chill.
For sure.
But you guys have a good evening.
All right, fellas, be easy.
Yeah, be good.
Good night.